Hey, this is the Hawk. Good to see you again. Nice to be back a little bit. It's not often I can get on here anymore. But let's talk about Africa. Africa has got huge mineral reserves. 40% gold reserves, 60% coal, platinum, cobalt, diamonds, everything. Oil, gas, and huge amounts of arid land for farming. What are we doing? What has Africa done for 1,000 years? It's been exploited, abused by who? Now, don't blame the white man. I agree the white man has come from Europe and manipulated the situation, and the Arab came from the north and enslaved black people, and black people enslaved black people, and white people came and bought slaves to enslave them again. But the reality of Africa is 99.9% of all the leaders in Africa are corrupt. They are corrupted by money. They are corrupted by greed. And their whole souls are corrupted because this is the nature of Africa. It's kill or be killed, take or just leave. It's sad. You get the media and history books. They tell us all kinds of stories about Africa. Yes, the Europeans came and colonialized Africa, and they left. What did they leave behind? They never left. They control most of the mineral wealth of Africa. They keep the economies of 90% of African countries in a mess. They deliberately corrupt every leader there is, including South Africa. When Mandela was released in 1990, they corrupted the ANC, a terrorist organization, to keep the mineral wealth to themselves. They threatened the ANC with losing the election and devastating that country quicker than they have done themselves. In 1990, in the early part of 1990, when Mandela was released, the ANC was sat down in a room with 8 men. There were 16 people in that room. One of them was Anton Rupert, Harry Oppenheimer, the IMF, and a few others. They sat the ANC down and told them to toe the line or they would destroy them. Chris Hani was one of those people. He refused. He was assassinated. They can blame whoever they like about that assassination, but there was a setup. Ramaphosa today, along with Zuma and Ace Mashula, have a lot to explain for with the nationalist government, the apartheid government. They worked as double agents for the ANC and for the nationalist government secret police. If you notice, Ramaphosa was always in the background, behind all the leaders, whispering in their ears like a snake. Ace Mashula used to pick out men to be hung as terrorists. And Zuma was just a criminal taking money from the government and playing double agent. He didn't care about the people, he cared about his pocket, he always did. He's not very smart. The reason he was let out of jail is because he has the dirt on Ace Mashula and many, many others that were playing double agent. The problem is you cannot put a terrorist organization in a country to lead. This last 27 years proved that. They complained about the oil price being increased in South Africa when the ANC was unbanned. They said it would devastate the poor. Since then, the oil price has gone 16 times higher, and they're trying to increase it again. Electricity is supposed to go up 20%. But in 1990, Eskom was the biggest supplier of electricity in the whole of the southern hemisphere, an example for the rest of Africa. Now, it's a disaster with hours and hours of blackouts. No investor in the world is going to invest in South Africa other than the Chinese to build their own cities, their own power plants, and have their own people working for themselves and handing gobs of money to the South African government, who are just criminals. The rest of the world, it would be insane to invest money in a country with the highest racist laws, more than the apartheid government before. Consider the fact that prior to 1800s, there were no tribes, no black tribes, Nguni tribes, south of Zimbabwe. In fact, there were little family groups that were migrating south. Tribes started when Shaka started taking over the families and creating massive groups called Zulu. And other groups came later, like Ramaphosa's tribe. In 1652, the Dutch East India Company landed in the Cape as a halfway house to the spices in India in the Far East. Families grew from there. And when the Dutch East India Company collapsed and left them there, these people became a nation of white Africans. They are not Europeans. They bartered with the Khoisan, the only legitimate owners of Southern Africa. Every black tribe in South Africa right now does not have a right to point a finger at any white man or claim land. No one stole their land. In fact, there's numerous treaties, barter treaties, historical records that need to be taken to the International Court in The Hague, presented to The Hague, and then the South African government needs to be sued internationally by the entire white population, Indian population, colored population of South Africa, including the Khoisan, because racism is racism. Two wrongs do not make a right. Apartheid was wrong, but racism is wrong. Communism is wrong. Greedism and corruption is wrong. Leaders are supposed to lead, unite, build, trade, invest, get investments, create the country to build it up. Education, medical insurance, medical systems, roads, schools. That is not happening. The corruption is so rampant. Eskom, the workers at Eskom are actually sabotaging electricity to get overtime to fix what they sabotage. That's a fact. You can't run a country when it's ruled by the trade unions. That is communism. I tried last year and the year before that and the year before that to get a petition to hand to Trump when he was in power for 1 million signatures. What happened? I got 65,000 signatures, a drop in the ocean. We know that Ramaphosa lied to the international community, blatant, outrageous lie that the farmers in South Africa, who they fear the most, they fear them for one reason only. They know that during the Anglo-Boer War, the farmers took on the mighty British Army. 500,000 British soldiers couldn't stop them. The only way they stopped them is that they collected all the women, children, and young old people and took them to St. Helena Island, where 26,000 women and children died from dysentery, from food being laced with glass, smallpox, and other diseases like typhus. A further 8,000 blacks that were with them also died in those camps. The British government has never paid reparations to the Afrikaans people that they devastated. They annexed South Africa because of gold. They still control the ANC government. They still have their hands in every single major company in the country that runs the utilities, mines, everything. Their hands are deep in it. They never left. They appeased the Afrikaans people by giving them independence back in 1960 or 1948. But the Afrikaans people feared the British and the rest of the world would come and take their land again. So they started the homelands, hoping that they could keep something that they had built. International pressure, because of apartheid, that all collapsed. But prior to 1990, South Africa had 22,000 murders from 1948 to 1994, when the ANC came to power. Since then, close to 750,000 murders in 26 years. A rape every 3 seconds, no matter the age of the child, from 0 hours to 100 years old. Ramaphosa lied about the farmers. They are being attacked daily. The old people are being taken and tied to chairs and having towels wrapped around their heads and boiling water poured over them, having drills drilled through their legs, having their families watch their children be raped or their children put in ovens, old ladies watching their husbands die while they're being raped. This is the reality of the South African government. Why does the international communities appease these people? It is time that the South African people themselves take the treaties that they had, prove that the ANC government cannot claim the land away from them. The historical land is theirs. And it is up to the Khoisan to decide who gets the land, no one else. They are the legitimate owners of South Africa. No one else. But I'll put this to you another way. In the United States, when the white settlers came to the United States, around about the same time as they came to America, to South Africa, is it logical to tell every white person, black person, and any nation that's here to go back to their homelands because they do not belong here? That's just illogical. Every child born in Africa is an African, irrespective of color, because Africa is just a continent, not a color. Half of Africa is Arab, 40% is black, and the rest is Asians and whites. Mixed races, different ethnicities, different nations, you can't even count. It's over 1 million languages in Africa. Dialects. The only reason we hear about land reform is greed. What's the point of taking a farmer who can farm and feed a nation and destroying a farm because you can't farm, you don't know how to? What's the point of taking the land away just because you feel that you have a right to land that you do not belong to because you're in power? There may have been skirmishes, but not over land, over theft, cattle, stealing, but not over land. Shaka gave Port Natal to the British. Dingaan gave land from there to Piet Retief. The Pondos gave land to the settlers there to keep the Zulus off their back. And so on and so on. The historical record is right there. People must stop listening to Julius Malema, who is a Zimbabwean-born refugee who has lied his way into politics using racism as his platform to incite the nation of uneducated people, because the government of South Africa deliberately doesn't build schools, deliberately keeps their nation uneducated. Do you see trade schools in South Africa? No. They don't teach trades anymore. They dumb down the people, use them for their purposes of stealing and greed. Who is camped at Ramaphosa's house right now? The WHO, the World Organization, Health Organization. Who is running this coronavirus nonsense from his home? Is Ramaphosa. Why? It's greed. He sold his soul for pieces of eight. He's always been in the background, sneaking and dealing and wheeling, and this is Ramaphosa for you. The EFF are no better. They're just gangsters. In Parliament today of South Africa, and any day, you'll see half that Parliament is Neanderthal old people that are falling asleep, who do not contribute a damn thing to the uplift of the country, but take the 100,000 rand a month and go home. And if anybody proposes something logical, it is shouted down because they do not have the leadership skills to run a country. It's always the white man's fault. Well, you know what? In 1990, a 5-year-old no longer lived under the law of apartheid. That 5-year-old is now 30-year-old. He's an adult. Never grew up in apartheid. And at 5 years old, you don't know anything about apartheid. You don't even understand it. And in 1990, it was only then that the internet was first coming out. Information started to flow. When we were children, there was a radio station. There were no TVs. There were just newspapers and radio stations. They were controlled mostly by the government. Propaganda, control. Anybody stepped out of line, they were put down. Did we as children understand what was going on? No. We did later on. But the people of South Africa consist of white people, black people, Indians, Coloreds, Khoisan, and many other nations. Asians, Italians, Germans, Lebanese, Portuguese, they're all there. They all have a right to live in that country. They all have a right because they were born there. They are not Europeans. They're Africans. This land reform is a human rights abuse that needs to be taken to The Hague, and the ANC government must be held accountable. Julius Malema and his EFF need to be held accountable for inciting human rights violations and abuse. The ANC government has squandered in corruption more than $30 trillion. I put out a show once. I could not list all of it. It was so much. And nobody's been held accountable. Zuma was let out of jail because he knew all the information of all these criminals. He was prepared to drop the bomb on them all. They let him go. And that just proves my point. The ANC needs to be taken down. A new government needs to be put in place. And the only way to do that is to unite. To all the white people in South Africa, do not ever point a finger at me. I am one man, and there's others like me out there trying to help you. But you cannot sit on your couch and look at me and tell me, what are you going to do? We've done our best to unite you. You need a leader in South Africa. Strong, brave, quiet leader. Not a brandy, brave, braai, old general with a pot belly living in the past. Or some spy that used to work for the ANC and helped them destroy the country. And you all ran to him, who talks gutter language, who's just a punk, in my opinion. Yes, he might have businesses and might have some money, but as far as I'm concerned, that's not who you need. Calling people names and threatening people all the time is not a leader. We need solutions. And the only way you can physically become strong against this tyranny is to unite. Put your differences apart. Put them down. Join as one. It is pointless me taking a petition to the American embassy for 100,000 signatures. Nobody's looking at it. You want to stop this vaccine mandate? You stand up, you go to the streets, and you tell them to shove it by the millions. You can't kill you all, because there's only about 100 of them controlling 40 million of you. Think about it. This is the Hawk. I'm out of here.